Hello, everyone. How are you doing? So today is the first day we are starting this new podcast called Tokenization, the new Phenom. See, the idea about this podcast is to educate the Indian investor community, primarily, all the investors, on the real value of tokenization. My name is Alek, and I am a founder of Animo Solution, which is a Web3 focused design development agency. And today, this podcast is being co hosted by me as well as Ashank. I'm going to invite him. So, let me introduce my co host for today, rather, for the whole series. So, Ashank has been building real estate entry tokenizer community to connect with leading entrepreneurs among people of Bharat who have developed the core or ancillary support solutions for enabling real estate tokenization. Today, 11 Indian founders who are leveraging Web3 for democratizations of real estates within or outside India are honorary members of REIT community. Ashank is a managing director of Bhuvanijak, Bhuvanijak Consultancy Services, which serve the needs of principals, agents, investors, customers, and partners seeking dharmic real estate solutions. He is actively building a platform for planning dharmic elderly housing solutions for people of Bharat. In addition, he is researching in Bennett University on philosophy of real estate economics with focus on elderly through lens of dharma. Ashank is a graduate of IIT Kanpur and IIM Calcutta, has worked in Royal Dutch Shell before embarking his 40,000 kilometer wander exploring 600 plus ancient dharmic sites throughout the land of Bharat and Sri Lanka. So let's go ahead and welcome Ashank. Hi Ashank, welcome. All right, Ashank, can you hear us, see us? Hello, hello. Your camera seems to be frozen. Anyhow, so while Ashank joins in, let me go ahead and introduce our guest for today. So, being the first episode, we are very thankful to him for joining us today and sharing a lot of knowledge and which obviously is going to talk about later on tokenization. So, Surya is a founder at Ryzer Wealth Corp Private Limited and Reapp Technologies Private Limited. With a strong passion and drive to build enterprise level technology solutions, Surya brings a rich and diverse experience of 10 plus years in core banking, insurance, and low code product development segment. He is an avid reader with a vision to reshare the unstructured and irregular landscape of the property market in India. He has a keen interest in emerging areas like blockchain, prop tech, low code, no code development, financial technology, and sustainable energy segment. Without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome Surya from Ryzer. Hi, Surya, how are you?
Hey, hi Alec. Hello.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming in.
hmm
All right, let me just check if
Thanks for
Ashank.
inviting me. Yeah, sure.
Pleasure is all mine. Yes. All right, I think he's. Hi, Ashank, can you hear us okay now?
Yes, Alec, I can hear you very well. How about me? Can you hear
Fantastic,
me?
very good. Yes, we can, we can. All right. So without further ado, we have a lot to talk about, and I already gave introduction about Surya and yourself. So let's start, Surya. Let's try and understand this first question from this simple thing. What is tokenization? So just try and explain it in simple terms. What is tokenization?
Okay. So, in my perspective, tokenization is merely a process bringing traditional, securities. The best example, we have bonds, we have private equities, private debt instruments. So bringing these traditional instruments onto on-chain, which is again a distributed ledger system, which we call it as blockchain. There is a process to do that. I mean, because these are traditionally connected well, legally connected well with existing age-old process, and bringing that into on-chain. That's what we call it as tokenization. Yep.
Oh,
So,
fantastic! I think that's
Surya,
a very
here is a
simple point.
question. So, Surya, here's a question which many people have been asking us that is it necessary that we call it tokenization only if it is being put up on blockchain? What if there's a centralized database we are putting these rights on?
So there is a reason behind why we call it as even tokenization. So when we, as I said, when we convert these traditional, example, your company, I want to have certain stake. I mean, what you do, you give me a paper shares, because, or maybe a digital shares in a security form, right? But now, without the consent or with consent of Ashank, I would want to transfer it to Alec whenever I want, wherever I want, for whatever the value that is. That's my shares. That's what I have. I've earned from you while working with you, right? So we cannot simply transfer that to a lake in a again on chain, because there is again a process attached to it. So what we do, we need to convert that into a virtual digital tokens, and then once those tokens are converted, and that attach the legal structures, now Alec can join in that um, investors community, or the token community, and then I can quickly transfer that. So that's the purpose of using tokenization. But as you asked, that we don't need to really call that as a tokenization for now. In fact, we call it as maybe securitized securitized transfers, or maybe units. Security units, we still call these as general, but still people love to use that as tokens. So it's just happen.
Yeah, quite
Okay,
funny,
so
right?
we
Our understanding of tokens, like especially here, what the tokens that you would pay either for token for booking a car, right, or token for booking a flat, or sometimes the tokens that you use to get milk from the dairies, right? Those were the
Mhm.
tokens. So I think from
Mhm.
an understanding perspective, it's, I mean, the value is very different. The volume is different. It's involving a large sum of money, but the basic point is that uh, everybody can transact, right? I think that's the
Mm,
core idea about
mm, mm.
tokenization. Do you recall who named it tokenization, who called it, who was the first
Um,
person?
no, we really don't know. I think it just happened. I mean, when we heard about NFTs, I mean, it's
Yeah,
a synonym of again, tokens, non-fungible tokens. But no
exactly.
one has time to call that as non-fungible tokens. It's just NFT.
Yeah,
It just happened. So I
yeah.
think, yeah, from there it just came in. Yeah.
So I'll
Fantastic.
give some 2 cents from our linguistic history out here. Apparently, there's an Indo-Latin root called tunk, which has been used in this kind of a reference. So the word token per se has been a very, very old word representing anything signifying a certain value. And it's this tunk which got misnomer to taka, which is still the
Mm,
prominent currency of Bangladesh. And in its reference, there used to be this ancient sites of minting money used to be called taksal in India.
mm,
So if we
mm.
actually dig into the history of it, the word token might find a lot of Indic roots from the
Yeah.
ancient merchant cultures.
Yeah.
Interesting. Nice. Very good. So now that we have that understanding of what is tokenization, let's go to the next point. Like, what exactly are collaborative digital real estate ventures? Let's start from there. And then
Collaborative digital real estate ventures. It's like four
ventures.
words
Surya, if
attached.
I have to just, if I can take a bit of a liberty to
Yep.
Yeah.
develop this question further, today in Ryzer we see these kind of a very interesting properties in Goa, of which you are forming a DAO. Now, it's a very
Mm-hmm.
new concept that the real estate DAO is being proposed for collective ownership of this particular property.
Mm.
So, how should we see it? Is it a collaborative digital real estate venture? What is being proposed together via the Ryzer app platform?
Okay, so I'll give you an example that everyone aware of it. So let's say you bought a flat and I bought a flat in the same building, and we form a society, right? So all the flat owners will have a society, and then they assign a person to take care of the lawns, to take care of the asset, right? What's there? I mean, just forget about the DAO for now, but it's there already as a society. All 30 flat owners have certain decision voting rights, equivalent voting rights, I can say, and they have the voice to tell, like, why. power is, why we losing power on time, how can we rectify that, so they have the voice, and they have these monthly kind of family gatherings, right? So see, that concept in India is very common. Like whoever staying in flats, they know that what is society is. So in my point of view, instead we look this as technology and put that very complicated a synonym or a word, as example in this case decentralized autonomous organizations. It's so confusing, and people could not even pronounce well. I mean, it's good to call that as, because most of the blockchains initially, early stage of blockchain evolution, they found out these words, but reality, practically, people really don't know all of these, right? In Ryzer aspect, so what we created, we use the same technology, which is decently available, open source, right? And provide that same opportunity for people who collaboratively come together and invest in, let's say a villa or a warehouse or a hospital, or even a small restaurant in airport. Tomorrow there is no surprise. We can even tokenize or fractionalize bits and pieces of stores in airports and stations. So there, but I should have the participation, right? So without which I really don't have a visibility, I become a passive investor. But investors' point of view, they really don't want to be a passive investor when it comes to investing in asset. If it's a stock, it's okay, because there is a mechanism there is a board, there is a regulatory system, there is a custodian process. But when it comes to this, the private equities, we do need to have the participation. These are active partnerships or active collaborations, right? So that's where DAO come into picture. We utilize that, or in fact, we kind of taken that as an advantage, and provide the same features to investors, that this is how you will be able to participate in. You will have a voting rights. You will have a visibility of the treasury, or visibility of the amount that everyone invested. The heart of the account. So I mean, all these basic features were already there in the DAO as a smart contract, right? We just leveraged it.
Interesting. So what you're trying to do is, put the community aspect behind and make it digitally available, because blockchain bring transparency and
Yes.
everything, and kind of
Yes.
bringing it in a simplified terms, a very, very authentic way of investing in real estate. I mean,
Yes.
put it simply,
Yes.
if we take away all these jargon of DAOs and, tokenization, fractionalization, because these are very
Yes.
heavy terms, right? People don't understand. If you go
Yeah.
to somebody, like, obviously we'll talk a little further around it. When you go and talk
No,
to a
I mean,
property dealer or
the
an
question comes.
yeah,
So
go
the
ahead, go ahead.
question comes, example, if you see, when investing, I mean, currently in even in 2023, when let's say I wanted to buy a commercial space for my own purpose, or I wanted to rent out myself, but it should be on my name, right? That's what Indians always look for, either a piece of land or a flat or any property, right? So there, it's just one entity, it's just one person. The registration happens on the name. But when you include 10 more people in that collaborative environment, you should in fact, recently even SEBI clearly released guidelines for REITs and in meets, that they should have the ownership control and the voting rights, rather become a passive investor. I think the changes recently happened, the amendments were also going on. The reason behind that, people love to have that active participation in an asset, and at least in a major decisions, I can say key decisions. I'm not talking about a decision like, let's say, change a bulb. They don't need to participate in it, but let's say change asset manager is a key decision, right? They wanted to be part of it. And we found out that how do we do that in a distributed ledger way, so that tomorrow when someone comes and audit us or audit the entire smart contract of that particular asset, we should be able to say that it's there already. You can just take that up and you can review it. And that's the power of decentralization, right? Why do we need to even see, as an investor or as a user, they really don't know about the back end technology, the back office technology. They really want to know how transparent that is, how trustworthy that is there any possibility, is there any single point of failure, let's say centrally a control system. In this case, Surya says that I created this community, you come and join, but which means Surya already have a power to remove someone, right? But in this case, the Surya doesn't have power to remove. Again, they have to have the initiate the voting rights, and they take a collective decision, a contributive decision to decide either do we need to change the asset manager or not. So I think we found out that it's there already, and decentralized way. So we just take that and started using it, and our group of investors slowly understanding it. The way of language that I'm convincing them is much better rather than talking about a DAO. I never used a DAO a word in the entire app. We just said that it's a community. That's it.
So Surya,
I
this is
totally
a
resonate with that.
now here we are at a very interesting paradigm shift because there are two aspects: the legal side of and the technological side.
Mhm.
So on legal side, as we go through the entire business pitch of Ryzer properties, it sounds like that this is ultimately a participation in a limited liability partnership
Multiple
of
instruments are there. I
multiple.
mean, so why we used LLP for this particular asset as a holiday home is the reason behind the asset size is small. It's just a G+1 villa, a group of
Mhm.
villas. So we thought of not to go with too much of complications, or sorry, compliances and statutories. So we wanted to reduce that. So we use this instrument. And if you ask the question, Surya, would you also follow the same LLP structure for, let's say, which we're right now working on a warehouse property in Pune, which is
Hmm.
costs around more than 20 15 cr, close to 15 cr. So we don't use that
Hmm.
LLP structure anymore. I mean, we should use the debenture structure through SPV. So that's the proper legal standardized process which we have. So yeah. So
Okay, so it's about using some of those companies' organizational structures which we already have as per Indian Companies Act,
yes, yes,
already existing wrappers wherever some kind of a collective participation into a real estate is happening.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
so what we are talking about is a novelty, not so much in the legal structures of it, but by the technological ease of
Hmm.
owning it and then transferring that ownership. Is that a right summary
Okay.
of how what is
So
a
as a
new
as a
disruption we are
product
bringing in?
manager, yeah, as a tech myself, I spend more than 10 years of uh, life in technology, building products, and especially core banking sites. So I always see the technology as an an instrument that you have to adopt it and start using it for your purposes. Example in this case, the solving the trust issues. So rather looking into technology, that the technology having the legal structures or not. Obviously, early stage technology never have any legal standards. Example, I'll tell you. Early stage of internet protocol, when internet protocols were released, there were no such guidelines or regulations or standard frameworks for existing. So over the period of time, the technology started adopting by the people, and then the regulations and the guidelines came in. In this aspect, blockchain, AI, and IoT, which most powerful, three most powerful instruments in this 2023 onwards. I see that as an instrument to enable a decentralized trust and transparency, and then making sure you wrap under the existing standard legal structures. We should not skip that. So we have to respect it, because that's what people believe in, and then use the technology to automate the process. Let's say example, I'll give you an example. Inviting 100 members into one LLP as a partners. Typically it's a long process. It takes 10 days, 15 days, manually sending emails or papers, all that, right? So if I say, can I reduce that into 10 minutes? That's the power of technology, right? So um, so I see the technology as an supportive instrument for the existing legal structures, Shan.
Interesting.
Sure,
Oh,
fantastic. So I think so that as a technology guy, as somebody coming from the product background, you're trying to simplify how people invest. Let's
Yeah.
put that, this whole thing in, like two sentences. Simplification is something that I really enjoy, right? So so can you just share a few things that how all this process comes about, like we use this word called collaborative digital real estate ventures, like DAOs and all those things. But how does all this come about? Say I'm an individual person, right? I don't understand all of this. What I want to do is
Mm,
I have decent amount of cash and I want to invest in
yeah.
a property which I cannot obviously invest fully. You mentioned about these villas. Let's take that as an example. So how do I go about this? How does the process looks like?
So earlier, 1990s, we do have a concept called timeshare. It
Yeah.
still existed in US and European countries, by the way. Um, and if you see that even in India, some people must have aware of how REITs, real estate investment trusts, works. It's the similar strategy or the collaborative investment vehicle to invest in real estate rental yield assets. Right? It's there. It's existed. It's not new, right? So, but again, REITs in one side having its advantages and disadvantages. People can easily invest in as low as 500 rupees, and it's like it's a share. You can buy a share, and again, it's a market linked asset. But people never see a property as a market linked asset. That's the blunt. It's a blunt. I never expect my nearby property to be connected with the global capital market. I mean,
Mm.
right? So that's where exactly timeshare came in. Timeshare has been there a long time, but and
Hmm.
I think 2014 15 times, fractional ownership platforms came in, popped in India. And from last 6 7 years, these platforms were performing really really well. They took time,
Hmm.
built it the confidence. Trust matters a lot. They took more than 6 7 years to build the a consistency of performance, making sure the investors are protected well, making sure their exists were good, right? So now people started exploring these as one more alternative investment class. Earlier it was never existed. So I never expect that, can I invest in a huge building in front of me as a commercial space as a part of as low as just 1 lakh? Because at the end of the day, goal behind any investments is to diversify their investments into
Yeah.
multiple asset classes. So, and how many options we have except private equities? We have stocks, we have gold, we have mutual funds, maybe we have fixed deposits. Hardly 4 5 options. That too few are market linked. I mean, we don't need to talk about crypto, but um, think of that, the bigger size compared to the capital markets, the public capital markets, the private market always dominates it. It's always 100 times bigger than the public markets. But why? Because it doesn't have an option to create an affordability to invest in or bring the retail investors to into it, because the minimum ticket size itself starts with as low as 50 lakh rupees, or sometimes higher as 1 crore to invest in. That's what we call it as private equities. There are a good amount of private equity funds there in India, right? But it's not available for common person like you and me. So that's where fractional platforms come into picture. Again, when we see fractional not meant to be real estate. Some most of the times that's what when people search for Google, let's say a fractional, so it just pops up as fractional real estate. But fractional is there long back. Stocks are fractional, gold is fractional, mutual funds, SIPs are fractional. So I think everything is fractional. We need to have a standard legal structures for maybe an asset class of real estate, an asset class of bonds, an asset class of maybe a revenue-based finance, even venture capital debts and equities can be even fractionalized. So that's what we see as a bigger picture when it comes to tokenizing any asset class that is made available for people to invest in quickly, faster, quickly. The exit should be faster, and the tradability should also be faster, right? So that's where tokenization come into picture.
So does that mean, I have a follow-up question. So it's basically a simple terms, a simplification of investing process,
Yep.
considering, giving people more options. So does
Yep.
that mean that anything which is investable can be,
Hmm.
like used in a tokenized way? Say, for example, you have, I can think of cars, right? Taxi
Mm,
services. They
mm,
have it's a business, right, which is run not
mm, mm,
private
mm.
vehicles maybe, because that is still funded
It's
by
an
some kind of
inventory. It's an
government,
inventory. It's an inventory.
right? It's an
Mm,
inventory, and people can do
mm.
that. Though it's a depreciating asset, cars as
Yes.
an asset class, so to say.
Mm,
But taxi service in itself is a revenue generating model.
yeah.
So you think that it could come in, with tokenized mechanism, there could be businesses generating, say, revenue after investing in, say, probably the initial cars, which are the assets for the business.
Yeah, I mean, in India, we do have a couple of inventory management companies who, accept investments from private placement of way, through the inventory. I think you must have heard about the concept of LRDs. Whoever is there in this session in the banking segment, they're very well aware of what is lease rental discounting. Lease rental discounting primarily works on that same model. Right now the monopoly is taken by the banks and there is no retailer participation in that. They know that the banks very well know that, right? They bet on goods, white goods like the one which you mentioned. Maybe an office space goods can create as an LRD instrument, or the vehicles that you said 100 Ola cabs can be convert that as a LRD, right? And From when the LRDs were existed? 2006. It's there,
It's
right?
there. It's a long time.
It's there. So, and we're talking about, is that LRD instrument of inventory is available for person to who wants to invest just maybe 10,000 rupees. You don't want to take risk, but is it
Hmm.
available? No, it's not. It's never. That's what it is. That's what the tokenization meant to be. The tokenization has the power to change that, the mindset of providing a way to invest in multiple asset classes. In fact, it's create a spectrum of asset classes, which we right now restricted to hardly 4 or 5, right?
Hmm.
And imagine post after 5 years, you will have at least, if not more than 20 asset classes to park your money. Tomorrow, example, I'll give you an example. We've seen the race of influencers in YouTube, right? And everyone has that's their kind of soul bound growth. Tomorrow there is no surprise. There is a very popular influencer wants to liquidate his a value, or a kind of a worth of value, um, maybe 10% of it for people like us to invest in, because we know that that guy is performing continuously from last 5 6 years, and we know that that guy can still continue performing by getting more revenue, ad revenues, and their sponsorship advertisements and all. I can bet on it. But right now, do we have that option to invest in that guy with as low as just 1 lakh rupee? I don't have. That's what tokenization meant to be.
So this is
Tokenization
a
actually creates a pipeline, a process, bring in unimaginable. So someone day before when I attended an event, someone was talking about uh, can we imagine fractionalizing or tokenizing aircraft. We all knew that we used to travel aircrafts, but we never intended to own an aircraft because these are privately owned inventories. So there is no surprise tomorrow. Vehicles like that can be also fractionalized or tokenized.
Interesting. So eventually, anything which is bought by money can be fractionalized.
Yep.
Eventually, like
Anything that actually earns money can be
earns money
tokenized.
rather. Yeah,
Yeah,
earns
yeah,
money. Yeah,
yeah,
actually,
yeah.
yeah, that's right, right. So Ashank, you have a question. Go ahead. Okay. Anyhow, I think he's facing. Ashank, can you hear us?
yes, I can hear you.
Cool.
So
Go ahead.
Alex, these
Ask
are
your
a
next
very
question.
interesting. Yeah, so I just wanted to make a quick comment on what Surya said, that we could be tokenizing as much as 20 asset classes. And I wanted to share here with our audience that this is this is our first series which we are launching on a part of REIT Corpus, which is a bit more focused on real estates, but that also gives us opportunity to talk about a lot more asset classes in a subsequent series as we'll discover tokenization, the phenomena.
Yep.
Yeah, and at this point, we have a good comment from Chandan. He's a very good, experienced lawyer and good friend,
Yeah.
right? He's saying that everything can be
Every
tokenized depending upon the acceptance and a bit of regulatory clearance. So apart from the tech side, the core business of tokenization or partnerships have been in existence since quite some time.
Yep.
He's correct. Surya also
He
mentioned,
banged
the
on.
LDRs.
Yeah.
Exactly. The
He
same thing.
really
So I
banged
think,
on. One important aspect is that you always need to have the third party regulatory body to take care
yeah,
of the structures, because anything can happen by any time. I mean, just because it's tokenized on blockchain, that doesn't mean it's protected, right? So what is that protective layer? That's where regulations come into picture. So example, I'll give you 2 years back, when people were not at all aware of investing in bonds, and India seen that drastic growth of highest participation in purchasing bonds, right? Be it the sovereign gold bonds, or even private bonds, or public bonds, government bonds. They've seen that highest growth in within the 4 years time. They never seen that in last like, let's say, maybe 30, 40 years. So just 4 years proved it. So what SEBI did, that SEBI instantly recognized it. They've reduced the ticket size of 10 lakh, minimum ticket size of 10 lakh to 1 lakh. And because these platforms proved that the retail investors participated well, because they provided as low as 10,000 rupees that can be invested in these bonds, again protected by the regulatory body. So
regulatory
now
framework.
we do have the regulations, which was released just 1 year back. All the platforms have to be getting their licenses. So that's the best example that I always believe in. Regulations always come in when you really prove that you are working in a right mindset with right intentions, avoiding bad actors in this segment. Regulations will always support you to do the right business.
Oh, absolutely. And this also reminds me, even today, earlier today, I was reading about a report which was talking about how NFTs are taxed. So they talked about US and then, coming to how it's done in India. And they said about 28% of straight tax if it's added or it's related to a collectible. That's
Mm,
a huge amount of, direct tax. And they said, like obviously in India, we are still trying to diversify and understand, the legal framework and regulation, but that's where I completely agree with you, Surya, that for people who are retail investors, especially, with going as low as $10,000 or whatever, that amount of investment, people would feel comfortable once the government comes up, that, okay, if you
yep.
invest, if there's a problem, we are there, we have the regulatory framework. These are the people that you can go ahead and talk to, have that grievance redressal, so to say. And that's where, the adoption takes a
Yeah,
massive
so I
flight.
think for real estate, we've seen recent announcement on SEBI, which we call it as micro REITs.
Yeah,
It's still in consultation mode, but we're anticipating to get the first draft of regulations by next couple of months from SEBI, official SEBI. So again, they've seen the same adoption happen on fractional platforms in India, and which actually boosts economy. At the end of the day, regulators always work for the good for the economy and the investors' production. These are the two major pillars for the regulatory bodies.
yeah,
And we knew that retail investors' participation really needed in infrastructure development,
yeah.
real estate development for sure, compete with other countries, and definitely retail investors' participation much needed at this stage. So especially post COVID. So I think we're anticipating to get the regulations in a couple of months.
Oh, absolutely. And the way the country's economy is going right now, and with the G20 recently completed, with the hype that we have, so I think it's right about. I think it's about the right time that the regulation comes in, so that the major people, of the country can actually go ahead and invest and take benefit out of it, right?
So I'll give you an example. When banks giving us money to circulate, and we earn money and save money again, in the same bank.
Yeah.
Like for what purpose? Like, I mean, as a fixed deposits, obviously banks wanted to do that, but banks don't wanted to put entire money back to their pockets and then redistribute it through their existing loan procedures, right? So that's where people have to get more awareness on diversify their investments in stocks, investments in, and then sustainable investments. I'm talking about not kind of quick earn kind of schemes, but
Yeah.
making sure the sustainable investments, be it stocks, be it bonds, be it gold, be it real estate. I mean, we've seen all these segments were already made available for people, but unfortunately real estate is not yet done, right? It's not available for people to invest in or made available for people. So I think fractional real estate have a huge grip in it. That will be one asset class, as mentioned earlier with Ashank. It's just one asset class, and as a whole tokenization, there are more assets that we look into it.
Exactly, and we
So,
have a couple of comments, before. Sorry, Ashank, before we reach there.
mhm.
So Chandan, I think, kind of concurs with what Surya mentioned. Regulate. Nobody's saying that regulations will never be able to catch up with the technological advances, but a bit of forward thinking clarity. But
Yes.
uh, it never happens, yeah, because like what Surya mentioned was that you have to go ahead and show as an industry that you're working in ethical ways, which is actually for benefit of the wider mass. Only then the government, because they have to do a planning for the whole of the population, right? The whole country. So they would
Yep.
obviously need time. And I think it also matters is who they listen to. That
Yep.
is a very, very important factor, that who are they talking with from the industry, and how are they kind of formulating those regulations. And all
Yep.
this, Web3 thing, blockchain, tokenization, and all these things are very, very new, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure they will be doing their due diligence. And yeah, if somebody asks me, I would definitely direct them to Chandan and Surya, to have a word
Mm.
around this, right? And we also have a good comment from Rahul. Thank you, Rahul, for coming in. So he's saying the great team, great conversation, and so glad to see you all learning here. Thank you so much for showing up.
Thank you, Rahul, for being here.
Yeah, cool. Sorry, Ashank, you had some question.
Yeah, like because this is also a series where we are trying to address the genuine concerns of our investor, our people of India at large, who are pretty new to this entire gamut of tokenization, and unfortunately, it has been heavily jargonized for the last 3 4 years. Rather, we can say Web3 has made an whole industry of jargons, which makes diving into the essential concepts pretty difficult. Now, whatever we are talking about with respect to collaborative digital real estate ventures enabled via blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
there's
Mm-hmm.
a genuine question which comes on part of Indian investors at large, that something similar has been attempted by even the Web2 models like HBits, Strata, etc.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they have been very much categorized by Securities Board of India, SEBI,
Mm-hmm.
as a fractional ownership platform in a very
Mm-hmm.
detailed circular, and
Mm-hmm.
given a very clear thing, look, wherever you are collecting a lot of money from people regarding any real estate, you have
Mm-hmm.
to operate with a certain kind of a rules and restrictions, which is as per MSM REITs, in case you
There you
are
go.
of.
You answered. You answered the question. So when you see the innovation happen, the best example I always love to talk about Strata and HPITs, how they proved it, because they believed in innovation and they proved it within the period of, let's say, 5 years, right? And the regulation found that obviously regulatory body would like to invite them and prepare a certain standard guidelines, right from setting up an SPV, making sure how you collect the money, how decently you're controlling the cash in and out, and how you're taking care of compliances from the customers, because end of the day, as a platform, you're not just a platform for the sake of platform. You have to have a responsibility to make sure that the investors are protected well, and also making sure that you have to first remove the ambiguity of investors, because investing in investing in a property with a ticket size of 20 lakh comes with a huge responsibility and ambiguity, right? Go and ask anyone would you like to invest in 20 lakh along with other people? It's like, why should I invest 20 lakh with other people when I have a power to buy a piece of land my alone myself? Like, so they proved it that yes, I think this is a right, one of a right instrument. They have the consistency. I always respect them. They have the growth that they showcased, a consistent and again sustainable growth, right? So now regulatories would like to set up regulations for players like everyone, players like platforms like us. Yep.
Cool.
So
Oh
that
no,
happens.
yes.
In fact, I would argue a bit whenever I have sessions with anyone. Still, platforms have that central control. SEBI does not really like that. They don't like controlling the data, the transactions, the money, the asset management, in one place. Again, there is a single point of failure.
Yeah.
We have to be cautious on that, and that's where you start using open source blockchain. I mean, who stopped you to not to use a technology that actually benefits you?
Yeah.
No one come and stop you. Just start using it. I mean, how much time it takes to, let's example, I'll give you npci. Why npci would like to hire blockchain experts for next 2 3 years? They knew that they want to, making sure they have to adopt the blockchain technology, the entire product suite of npci segment, right? Either it's a permission or type of blockchain, that is a different topic, but at least, that automates the process. There is a visibility, there is a traceability, there is an audit, and there is no single point of failure. So I think even in existing fractional platforms, there might be a single point of failure, that investors always ask, what if your Ryzer just disappears in one day?
Yes.
For me, I always tell that, you don't need to even bother about it, because it's a digital society. It's there. It's a digital entity. You are part of a partner in that asset. Even as a platform, they exited. You still have the ownership in that asset through the traditional instrument, but again, the data is recorded on blockchain, so that you have the audit trail to prove that you are the right investor at the right time. Legally you can fight, but with the central control, there is a possibility of manipulation of data in all the aspects. We should always fight for not to give that opportunity to players like platforms like the one which we talked.
Exactly, and it has happened as well. In the past, in
It's
some sort
happened.
of space, especially in the in the real estate sector. Where things are have
It's happened.
kind
It's
of
still
been
happening.
manipulated,
It's still
right?
happening. Most of the builders, which I found out, again, this is a bold statement. They really don't create all these legal structures. They just say that you just come and invest in under construction property. We call it as pre-launch offers. You heard about pre-launch offers. What is mean by pre-launch offers? It's just like
Yeah.
pooling a capital for an asset which was not even built. Come on, that's where RERA come into picture. RERA always tell that you invest in the stages, as per the stages, the slab, we call it as CLP, construction link plan. And they've created the structure or a strategy to eliminate that single point of failure. What if the builder will not able to build by taking the money? And still the fraud's happening, still they're happening. So how do we kind of mitigate it? I think fractional or tokenized investment vehicles are the right answer to tell that, because the data is trusted. It's in trusted layer, and there is a mechanism to do, there is a process to do, right? Again, by taking advantage of RERA, you have to consider RERA, you have to consider like traditional standard legal structures, and also you have to consider the SEBI regulations, and then make business. I think that's the reason we are kind of bit slow in terms of picking up assets. We don't want to bring random assets in our platform and say that this is a asset you come and invest in. No, we are very cautious of picking up right assets, right from, is it RERA verified or not, the legal due diligence. We again do that. There are 3 checks of legal due diligence we do internally. The builder has to do one, the RERA already did that, and we also do that internally, and
Wow.
giving the same documents case to the investors. Hey, you know what, before investing, why don't you check with your legal person by just paying 5,000 rupees, and just cross verify before investing, let's say 1 lakh rupee. So that's the advantage. I mean, how do I mean, go and ask any platform or a builder, before investing your 10% of token amount, would they give all the documents to you? The land documents? Would they give all the information about the property? They never, because that's what they say, that you have to pay the token amount, and you end up going back and forth if you don't really like it. So that's where RERA also come in picture. So they're making certain progresses. I really love how Maharera do the actions every day. Whenever I see the news, yeah, I'm happy that at least traditional real estate having the bad mark, the black mark, is slowly fading away, and soon we see the really good, trusted and transparent environment in even in real estate in India.
Oh yeah, that's because that's very important. That mindset of people, with respect to real estate investment. There was a very good movie. I'm forgetting the name with Anupam Kher came in. Where his property
घोसला का
was.
घोसला.
Khosla ka Ghosla. Yeah, that was exactly around it, right? That one property being either hijacked. Sometimes you hear one property is being sold to multiple stakeholders, multiple people, and now they are fighting. Who's the rightful owner, and the person who sold. I mean, there's so many cases. On the contrary, there are a lot of rightful, like people who work with honesty. There are a lot of builders, who do that with honesty. They make
Yes.
it, make sure, people, and we need to talk about such people more as well, as a community,
Yeah.
right, who are getting into this. And then, the asset class and fractionalizations. So on that, I have a couple of comments from one from Satish. He says that the MSME REITs are yet to be notified. I don't know, Surya or Ashank, your comments here.
Yeah. As I said, right,
Yes, sir.
the consultation paper came in, but the regulations will pop in a couple of months.
Oh, so
They have
couple of
just
months.
given it
Again,
as an
you have now an
ultimatum that
opportunity.
Yeah.
just a teaser they have given. That's it.
So it's like
There
launching
you
a new
go.
car, right?
So Chandan mentioned that Falcon,
Yeah.
that's the best example of NPC's next product. So they started using permission blockchain for that. And with Chandan, I can also add that we all go to airports and we see that there is this Digiyatra, the board,
Yes.
the quick entry. Go and check the technology behind. It's a blockchain. So
Yeah.
I mean, as a traveler, why should I care about blockchain at this case? But it gives me the power of verifying myself quickly, scan the ticket, just go there, right? That's the best example that we can envision. I mean, in fact, I can say that from the hype to value from last 6 7 years, right, from ICOs to the fading of crypto and then to NFTs. Now the government entities are actually taking a bold step on blockchain and AI than private entities. I think that's a good move in India, because eventually that creates an ecosystem of a new age-old financial technology. In fact, so far what we see, the fintech, again, it's supported by the regulatory body of RBI. Without the
Yeah.
blessings, there is no such fintech existed in India. So-called neobanks and all, it's not existed. It's there because they've adopted the technology, and now we are moving from, I mean, kind of a stage one to stage two. Tomorrow, imagine when the 5G hits and 6G hits. Do you think we do have time to turn off lights and fans and AC and TV? And no. That's what the device to device communication happens, and they talk each other, and you need a lot of data. And who will control the data and who will verify the data?
Yeah.
Again, blockchain come into picture. But
And
who takes decision on it? AI takes a decision on it. See, if you see that technology is moving so fast, drastically it's going on, but at the same time, uh, prepare, build good innovations so that that thrives for good regulations. That's what I believe.
interesting point. Yeah. So in that point, the IoT is going to probably come in as well. I mean, that's the next sector
Yeah.
that will be kind of start to move to blockchain. Dependency for
Yeah,
data
I mean,
validation,
what
data
if, imagine there
security.
is a scary,
Yeah.
situation happen, and I've seen one advertisement about IoT only. So where you really don't have any control of your cameras and your devices in your home,
Yeah.
because there is a central failure of hack. How do we control it? So again, distributed ledger, if it's a decentralized network, then you have at least a security protocol attached. So I really don't believe that X company controls my device's data. I wanted to control the data. I am the user.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the right way. So let's talk a little bit about Riser. So you're doing this. Where do you see Riser in this whole, picture of fractionalization, tokenization, in especially in real estate, right?
So
Where
we
do you
no,
see it next five
we
years?
actually started our journey 1 year back. We started actually we did not started with real estate for the fact. We started with
Okay.
bonds. So we ideated this concept with regulated instrument bonds, but we again moved back to real estate. The reason behind real estate is, you go to any village and talk about real estate, they easily can understand, but you go to village and talk about the adoption point of view, the scalability point of view, and you talk about bonds, no one knows. I mean, I really don't care about bonds. I mean, I really don't have an awareness. So I think, but there is a massive adoption required in real estate. That's why we picked up in real estate. Again, especially in real estate, there are multiple types of assets, right? So in our case, it's only rental yield generating assets, period. There is no other use case. We don't tokenize or fractionalized flats, because there is no revenue in it. It's just hardly 2%, less than 2% of it, and there is no purpose of tokenizing for the people to invest in, right? So we bet on commercial assets, we bet on warehouses, we bet on data centers, and even hospitals in that case, malls, or even small coffee shop in my neighborhood in Koramangala can be tokenized. So I'm happy. At least I'm the part of owner. I can get that owner coupon, or kind of an NFT where I can go and get the discount. I mean, I'm happy to get that. That's what is happening in the
So,
airports.
so for some of
So
our audience who might be having a commercial real estate venture of their own, like a coffee shop, how do they get started on Riser and raise funds for that?
Again, the one who has real estate, or let's say asset, I don't think they need funds to run the business. They already have the
Mhm.
asset. So in this
If they
case,
want to
you will
dilute their
only have to
equity.
raise. So example, I'll tell you. So let's say there is a commercial building which is bare shell, right? It's empty, no tenant, it's empty, no furniture. So that requires a capital to furnish it as per the requirements of tenant, right? So, but at the same time, tenant don't want to put money himself and do the furniture, and also builder don't want to put money and do the furniture. That's where we have an opportunity. As an investor, we have an opportunity to take that cut, invest in it, be partial owner in that asset by buying the entire floor. I'm not talking about leasing. Buy the entire floor together, 100 people, and then fund that for furniture, get the tenant. Again, the platform has to take care of it. In this case, maybe Strata HPETs, that's what they do. Even Razor, right? That's what we do. We kind of take care of that, and that's the a benefit the investors are unlocking, right? So in this case, a coffee shop, but making sure it's a bare shell so that the new tenant comes in and the new business starts in, and then I can bet on that property as an investor.
Hmm. So
Yep.
now you have mentioned earlier that there's a lot of real estate developers don't like to, give so much transparency. And repeatedly, I'm talking, sensing a new kind of a paradigm wherein
Mhm.
there's a lot more transparency about showing the records, etc., which is more often not the norm in the traditional real estate.
Mhm.
Rather, the huge proportion of so-called black money in real estate is because there's a lot of necessary protocols because of which transparency is at least officially not maintained. So here we are talking about a very different kind of a mindset, different type of way of doing real estate. And real estate is like so huge, it's almost 60 to 70% of the total global wealth.
Mhm.
So how do you really foresee this paradigm shift happening?
Yeah, so I'll give an example. Uh, when people really love to buy iPhone sales skyrocketed. What if people really doesn't like iPhone and its experience? So where is iPhone and where is Nokia? I'm just giving an example, right? So at the end of the day, the decision maker at any stage of any business is the end consumer and investor. It's not builder, it's not regulator, it's not platforms, it's the investor, right? So if investors are expecting the trust and transparency, obviously that's a common aspect for them, and the builders has to shift. If they say that no, I still wanted to do the black money transactions on my business, good luck. You have an IT department, you have the entire interconnected system that India now created, which can be traced. And the second one is, what about your a growth? What about your branding? I mean, in this competition, what about your branding, right? So why don't you do that right? So if you do that, investors are happy to invest in with you, and you can make more profits. Sorry, you can make more constructions. So the mindset has to shift, or else you become a Kodak. So you don't want to
It's
end up like a Kodak. So you have to become a Sony. So you choose an option, either this stage, as a builder or a realtor or a builder, they wanted to become a Kodak, fade away, they wanted to become a Sony and make the market.
Interesting point. I think so. We are about at the hour. That's a
Yep.
good note to end our discussion today. And any last thoughts, Surya? In this industry, the way it is going right now, and we just have few players right now, especially in India. We have say about 8, 10, 12 people or companies which are getting into fractionalization. Whereas
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
if I equate that with the number of banks and the real estate companies per se, it's going to be hundreds, right, or close to thousand.
Yep.
So where do you see this growing as an industry within India, especially in real estate? Because that's where your focus area is right now, and that's
Okay.
when I want
So
to wind it.
when it comes to real estate, I believe micro REITs play a huge role in next 10 years. There is no scope. I'll give you a reason why behind that also. When 2016, sorry, 2013, when REITs were released, current REITs that we hardly have, four REITs, right? Over the 10 years journey, the adoption was not there. So which means there is a huge potential of taking advantage as a micro REITs at this stage. Whereas I'll give you such a small country nearby. Singapore has more than 46 plus REITs. Malaysia itself has more than 36 public REITs. I'm talking about public REITs, the bigger size REITs. I'm not talking about private REITs at all or micro REITs at all, right? And such a huge country, India still have four. So what's the issue? Where we failed? So I think micro REITs play a huge role. When micro REITs hits, we see a lot more platforms like us coming in as a platform, as an aggregator. The way how fintechs are playing role with the banks, at the same synergy with builders, the investors,
Hmm.
and the regulatory body of RERA, the platforms play a huge role, because the platforms are the only one get the user attention in their small device or their experience, right? They are the one who cracks the experience. Don't expect that cracking the experience by the builder. They are maybe good at advertising, but they're not really good at convincing customer. But the platforms do. So, and we've seen the same adoption with UPI, with the moment the Paytm initiated that experience. Now people, all around India, they adopted digital transactions. So again, it's just a private company who did that a couple of years back. Now we have adopted it. It's a reversibility, right? You can't think of that going back to the old days. Same thing happens in this segment, but look for a long journey. Whoever wants to thrive into real estate market, be it platform, be it a technology provider, be it a CRMs, any technology related solution, making sure it's not the quick earn kind of arena. So you have to put your mind for a very long time, 10 years minimum, and then expect your returns to be there very long time, and build your really good portfolio. And the trust, at the end of the day, trust is it matters from the investor's point of view. So we believe in that journey, like.
Fantastic. I think that's a very good point, right? And on this, we have a point from Gopal Anandan as well. He's saying, as per his experience, or probably their experience in his company, in the US, private permission chain is accepted by institutions.
Mm,
That is one critical piece to see things moving. in
Mm.
India, this should work as well, isn't it? So permission
It is.
blockchains could be, hyperledger or something like that.
No, it is. I think Gopal mentioned really good point. I think you heard about JP Morgan Onyx. Onyx is
Yeah.
a tokenization platform that most people don't know that, by the way. They're working
Hmm.
they're working on biggest private capital markets now, and most of the banks and private players are taking advantage of Onyx now. So again, it's structured, it's well regulated. India also, they're trying to penetrate in India. I mean, within next 2 3 years, we see that big players in India also can adopt Onyx. The way how, as he mentioned, again, they also use permission blockchain. I agree,
Yeah.
totally agree. No one really want to share the data. I mean, but still, maybe in institution point of view, it's a good decision. But again, investor or the end consumer point of view, I would argue to at least choose hybrid, so that you have to be equally provide the value to investor and the trust, and yourself. So I believe in hybrid blockchain adoption happens very drastically. We've seen how public blockchains adopted so far with the so far ecosystem. It's not picked up yet, to be honest. You go and check the real data, how many transactions per second is happening on public blockchain. That's a fact. We have to see that. So permission blockchain is a good one, but that can only have certain limit. But hybrid blockchain has unlimited scope of adopting from both public and private segments.
Fantastic. Yeah, because I had that question. I know we wanted to wrap it up, but I just keep having these discussions, right? So permission blockchains are I would say a fancy term for the standard controlled companies. Because
You
that
don't need to
still
even call
have.
it as you don't need to even
Yeah,
call it as permission blockchain. It's not
yeah,
on. It's
exactly,
not. It's not anymore blockchain. It's just a network protocol of your own servers for
exactly.
your own nodes. So
Yeah,
then why you call it as permission blockchain? It's not anymore blockchain.
yeah. That's an interesting point, and I think we can end at that. Let's have a few words from Ashank and then Surya, and then we wrap it up.
Yeah, so first of all, many, many thanks, Surya, for coming to our inaugural discussion,
Mhm.
because we all go wait long, so I understand where you are coming from and the kind of in-depth homework you have done for the benefit of real estate investors who would be trusting Ryzer, its platform, its legal solutions, while they'll be putting their hard-earned money out there. And that definitely reflects in the deep rigor which you have with respect to the legal nitty-gritties, the technical nitty-gritties of this entire blockchain. It's a fundamentally a very new paradigm, actually, what we are entering into. And we can only just see hope that this process of democratizing real estates in Bharat and globe would be a very, very interesting one through platforms like yourself. So best
Uh,
wishes on that.
thanks a lot, Ashank. Thank you very much. We just started our journey, hardly, I think, less than 3 months. We need obviously blessings from people like you, and we have a long journey, and looking forward to hear from you guys. Thank you.
Fantastic, Surya, for coming in. And thank you so much, Shank. And see you guys later. Bye bye. Thank you, viewers, for
Thank
joining
you.
in.
Bye bye.
Look
Thank you.
forward to
Thank
the
you.
next episode. Bye bye.